I had the misfortune of having, how should I put it, Jan, a co-opted hot flash. I was wearing a 2-person Christmas sweater with Ryan Seacrest. And suddenly I have a hot flash. And I mean, as you explained to our listeners, it came from the center of my body and projected outward as though 1,000 sponges were flying out of my body at the same time. And Ryan looks at me and says, "Are you sweating?"
Somebody got to cue me, or do I cue myself?
Cue yourself.
Okay.
Oh, this is a big one. It's big. We're all fired up here. Welcome back, everyone. We are live with another episode of Let's Talk Off Camera. So let's get talking. Woo! Yes. Guys, before we get into our show, I just want to say that we as a collective, yes, we, the royal we here at the podcast, went out last night. We had a big time. Oh, we had a big time. Jan, where were we?
We were at the Sirius XM's Upfronts.
Wow.
Yes.
Beautiful event.
Albert, explain to our listeners what the Upfronts are.
Upfronts is where the advertisers come and the big show is put on to show them why they should be advertising with the network.
And do you think we did a good job explaining to them why, or was it bedlam for you?
I think we did a good job.
Yeah, I think all the advertisers want to advertise with us.
Yes.
I'm
did my best out in the universe.
Yes.
I was trying to I don't think, here's what I know, because I come from a TV world, and the TV upfronts, everyone is blotto. They get them liquored up, they liquor them up, and they open their wallets, and that's how TV ad dollars happen. I saw like maybe 1/2 glass of a white wine spritzer, and I was like, oh, this is not gonna cut it. Like, these people are sober. You need to get the ad people.
Yeah.
But so I guess backstage there was an issue.
There was, listen, you were out on stage and there was some stuff going on backstage.
Oh boy.
So the deal was that Andy was bringing out you, Jeff Lewis, and Tiggs,
yes.
Sorry, you guys out, and you were going to play this game.
Yes.
Right? And it was a game that it's supposed to seem like it's spontaneous, but we all know how this works. You knew what your questions were beforehand. Jeff knew his. The same thing.
If I'm being honest, I really didn't pay attention.
Okay, but you knew what they were, right?
I knew there were questions coming.
You knew what they were. And so what happened was when they introduced you, they said your names.
Yes.
But then you guys walked out in a different order.
Because, again, I cannot stress this enough. We were lined up backstage by a stage manager who put us in order. When we heard our names being called, I was like, we all sort of went, we're in the wrong order. And he was like, go. And then we walked out, and as I hugged Andy, I was like, I think we're in the wrong order. And then we sat down, and me not realizing that the mics on stage were a prop. And I guess everybody else knew that, except they didn't tell the new girl.
We just figured that out 10 minutes ago, so I don't know.
And so my prop mic, everybody else's prop mic is in front of them, and mine is like down on the floor.
It's on the floor.
So I'm like leaning down so that everybody can hear me. And I can tell that Andy is like amused. And I can tell Jeff thinks I'm an idiot, and Tinks also thinks I'm an idiot. So like there's 3 people that are like, look at this moron that doesn't realize that her mic isn't connected to anything.
Right.
But so the producer and me, because
Yes.
I'm always
Oh,
thinking
boy.
that way.
Yes.
Stop.
No.
So the producer and me is like, they're in the wrong seats. Therefore, they're going to get the wrong questions. And so I simply...
So Jan, who's not producing this event, goes over and drops a bomb, whispers to somebody, and then mayhem breaks loose backstage. Heads are running, people are sprinting.
I know you briefed your talent on these questions. They're not going to get the right questions. Kelly Ripp is a pro. She'll be fine. But I'm just letting you know.
So mayhem breaks loose. Jan,
But Jeff and Tinks are real loose cannons.
I just wanted them to know, and by their reaction,
but no, so
they freaked.
They freaked, and it was mayhem, and dust was flying around, and you come over to me in the middle of it, looking so scared, and you're like, whatever happens, I didn't do anything.
They're in the talkies, they're like, they gotta switch seats. They gotta switch
And
seats.
now, and then poor Tim is running back. You see him like passing the scrim behind you to go out there. And I'm like, Jan, if these people are stopped in the middle of this and they change seats, it's all your fault. All the momentum that Andy has going. He's a pro. They're all going to figure it out. Kelly will pivot. It's not a big deal.
Well, I didn't pivot, and I was totally lost up there. My question, I looked at the question and I was like, what does that even say? I couldn't see. Andy's asking me the question. I'm trying to read it off of the monitor behind me. And I was like, what? So my question was spiciest interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
right.
struggled to find my words. And I'm bringing this up for a reason because it's going to tie us into our live episode. Stay with me. And if I don't fall apart in the landing of this ship, just so you know, I am trying to land this ship. I will land the ship.
Land that plane,
Okay.
Kelly. Land it.
So spiciest interview. And I looked at Andy and I said, we had Matthew McConaughey on the show, and he revealed that he may or may not share a father with and I'm struggling to find the word Woody Harrelson to the point where I'm like, somebody help me.
At this point, Jan ran downtown to get a cue card.
And Andy goes, Woody Harrelson? Because Andy's like, are you okay? And I go, yeah, Woody Harrelson. And then I try to repeat the story, forget Woody's name a second time.
Yes, you did.
And I was like, oh my God, somebody grabbed the hook. And I realized I was having a brain fog moment because I'm due for my tea shot. Yes. What is your tea shot, Kelly? Thank you for asking, Jan. My testosterone shot, which I was supposed to take a week ago, but I had to travel to Minnesota. And Mark was supposed to, because Mark gives me the shot. He likes giving it to me. He's got to put it in my tush. And he was supposed to administer said shot every night this week, but he keeps falling asleep before I come to bed. And I don't have the heart to wake him up and to give me this shot. Anyway, what was I saying? A brain fog. Brain fog. So that is why I am struggling to find my words. And the reason I bring this up, dear listeners, if you've not tuned out by now, if you're still with us, it is October. And do you know what October is? October is Menopause Awareness Month. We get our own month. Woo-hoo. What? We've shrunk it down to 3 days because we can't remember the rest of the month. We're having a real honest conversation about navigating menopause and taking charge of your health. And menopause is not just menopause. There's perimenopause. There's the time before perimenopause. There's basically anything after 32, I'm being told. And it's a range. It's a real spectrum. But we've got so many conflicting stories out there about menopause. And today we are honored and thrilled to have Tamsen Fadal joining us. She's an Emmy-winning journalist and advocate whose own on-air hot flashes and breaking point bathroom moment and lack of answers pushed her to research and write the New York Times bestselling book, How to Menopause, and create two, not one, Jan, two documentaries, The M Factor and Before the Pause, so women can finally have the support that she never did. And boy, do I know all about the on-air hot flash. Good God Almighty. But let's welcome Tamsen Fadal to our podcast.
Hello.
Tamsen, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us about your epic on-air hot flash moment.
I will, because you know what, your brain fog moment there just took me back. I felt every bit of that with you. That is so scary. Well, you know, I was a journalist, a TV journalist for 30 years. And one night in 2019, I was on the air and we were in a commercial break and I felt that feeling. And if you've had a hot flash, you know what I'm talking about. It's not like a little spritz. It comes up from the center of your belly and literally sweat springs out under your arms, in your hair, your scalp, your face, everywhere. And you feel like, I don't think I'm going to be able to control whatever is happening next. And I was on the air at the time, commercial break, luckily, and my heart was just racing out of control. Heart palpitations are one of 34 plus symptoms of perimenopause, menopause. And one of the guys in the news studio said, I think you should go to the bathroom. Like, you should get off the set because I don't know what's going to happen. And he escorted me off the set and I went right to the floor of the ladies' bathroom. Never something I would have done in my right mind. You know, Kelly, what TV bathrooms are like. The floors are not a friend.
It's a horror show, everyone.
And I went right down to the floor to cool my body off. And I laid there and I went, what in the world just happened to me?
Yep.
And that was kind of where the journey of trying to understand what was going on with my body began.
I had my first on-air hot flash, and everybody at this table was there. They remember it well. I had the misfortune of having, how should I put it, Jan, a co-opted hot flash. I was wearing a 2-person Christmas sweater with Ryan Seacrest. And suddenly I have a hot flash. And I mean, as you explained to our listeners, it came from the center of my body and projected outward as though 1,000 sponges were flying out of my body at the same time. And Ryan looks at me and says, "Are you sweating?" And I said, yes, don't worry. By the time your girlfriend goes through this, I'm determined to find a cure. But it's, it's harrowing, it's embarrassing, it's humiliating, and nobody talks about it. I don't think it's talked about enough. I think even with all of your hard work, it's still not talked about enough. It's not normalized. And people think of a much older woman going through menopause. They don't understand where it begins, how it begins, and what the early symptoms look like. Don't you agree?
I couldn't agree more. I think even if you Google it right now, you will see images that come up of much older, frail women. This, whatever they do on ads on TV when the woman's like sitting on the bench, petting her cat, like that's kind of the woman, right? She's given up. And I don't think it's talked about enough. We have 1 billion women globally that are in this transition right now. So that is a lot of us. But I think because it's so wrapped up in so much fear about getting older, and it's not about that. This can start much, much younger, and that's the word I think we got to get out.
I also think our mothers came from a generation of women who did not speak of such things. Mm-hmm. And so we are sort of the pioneering generation of women talking about it. I mean, besides the Golden Girls, which the Golden Girls covered menopause. They talked about it in the 80s, but people try to suppress those memories or not refer to those memories in any way. In all the funny Golden Girl episodes, they never really, in any of the TikTok viral videos, none of the menopause episodes come up. Jan, go.
I find the information to be super confusing, and I'm in this world of, journalism, if we call this journalism.
Let's call it journalism.
Let's call it journalism. But for me personally, I'm confused because I'm one of those people who I get my period every month, right on the date, right? And it is, always the same amount of time. It's as regular as it could be. But I do wake up at night in a full flop sweat. But I keep saying it's because I'm stressed out. I feel like there's so much going on in my life right now that I'm kind of thinking that that's what it is. And I had my hormones checked 2 years ago, and they said everything was fine.
But did you have your hormones checked by by an endocrinologist or a menopause specialist?
Erica Schwartz
did
my hormones 2 months ago and 2 years ago and said it was fine. But I got to imagine by now, I'm 53 years old. I got to imagine that this is probably now where I'm at.
Jan, it's so impressive.
It is. Yeah, it's really impressive because usually the average age of menopause is 51 years old. And most women start some of these kind of changes you're talking about, waking up in a pool of sweat, not feeling like themselves, feeling stressed out. And those start to become those symptoms of perimenopause leading up to menopause. But that's amazing. Though I would say it's been 2 years and a lot can change in 2 years.
Yeah, I'm
It's
assuming it
hormonal.
has. But I'm always afraid, like, because Kelly talks about the importance of hormones, and I'm always afraid, like, I'm missing the window of, like, taking them. Like, so I'm like, when am I going to start them?
No, you can, so I'm not a doctor. We all know that. I'm a journalist, but I did so much research into this because a lot of doctors, truth be told, were not like Dr. Schwartz, who is, this is her specialty. This is what she does day in and day out. She sees patients. She knows what's going on. She probably, she knows the minute you walk into that office what's going on with you, most likely. But you can start hormone therapy in perimenopause to help with some of those symptoms. And then once you hit menopause, you'll have that other conversation and you can keep going right through there. But there's not a window you're going to miss if you're still getting your period, for sure.
And it's also it's not a one size fits all medicine. I mean, it's trial and error. And I definitely started HRT way before I stopped getting my period, just because I wanted to control some of the other symptoms.
Right.
I just think and there's so much misinformation based on erroneous studies from decades ago that people still will say to me, how can you do HRT? Aren't you afraid of getting cancer?
That was the hardest one for me. So I lost my mother to breast cancer. And so I was one of the people that when I went into the doctor for the first time, I went, I can't do that. So you got to give me something. You have a supplement, you have a root, you have a mineral. What do you have for me? And they said, no, you haven't had breast cancer. And so there's a lot of misinformation out there. There was a study over 25 years ago now that really the media did a big misservice. There were a lot of headlines that were very confusing. Women threw out their hormones. It went from like 44% of the population to 4% of the population using hormones. And it was really a disservice to women. And women that would have been my mother's age would have, lost this whole window of being offered this. But I will tell you that the most effective, according to all of the guidelines of the Menopause Society, treatment for certain symptoms of menopause, they will say is menopause hormone therapy, which is hormone therapy, which is estrogen, progesterone. And then if you decide testosterone is something that, you want for low libido, then, you can do that. And trust me, it makes a huge difference. For me, it did.
And do all insurance companies cover this?
That's another one.
That's a real question.
No, it's a great question.
This affects half of the population.
I know, but we're women, so it's like that's the problem. That's really a problem.
So then, how do people get this? If not,
access is a huge problem. Trying to figure out, first of all, finding a provider is a big, is a big thing that you try to do. That's why I'm grateful for a lot of the telehealth companies that have come up and make things a lot easier. But yes, some insurance does cover. Other people are going to a specialist, and sometimes those specialists are not going to take insurance because they're a concierge doctor that are specializing in hormones. And so there's been a lot of confusion about it, and there's a lot of frustration about the lack of access. For the most part, though, most insurance companies will cover at least the hormone therapy.
A portion, right?
A portion of the hormone
yes,
therapy.
Right. And so give me some of your experiences with doctors that you saw, because I was very, very fortunate in my life that a girlfriend of mine recommended Erica Schwartz to me early on in my life. So I was blessed to have her in my life. Give me your experience.
Yeah, you really were, because she is, top notch, and she is, there are doctors out there. Yeah, she really, really is. So I had it's funny. I came to New York when I moved to New York, and I was like in TV news, and I went to all the other women anchors. I'm like, who do you use for your gynecologist? And so we all had the same gynecologist. Like literally, he saw every one of us. That, he'd be like, we'd be in the office, and he'd be like, so how's the news while he's doing the exam? Right. And so that was kind of that was my experience with my OBGYN. When I got my blood test after that happened in the news studio, I got a note in my patient portal that had 4 words in it: in menopause, any questions? Signed by the doc. That was it. That was what was in my patient portal. No suggestion, no, alternatives, no condolences. I don't know what you're supposed to do, but none of that.
Not like, here's what I'm prescribing.
Nothing.
In menopause, here's what I think you should do next.
There's a definition of it. You're not just old and washed up. Nothing like that. Right. And so that was real discouraging. And I think it was really, really important for me to try and figure out what to do next. So I wound up going from that doctor to another OBGYN. And then they said, maybe it's, I said I have anxiety, I have weight gain, I'm not sleeping at night. Like I was a girl that could fall asleep instantly. And they gave me Lexapro, antidepressant.
I hear that a lot. A lot of women are prescribed antidepressants instead of HRT.
Because of the anxiety, because you're like, I'm anxious and I'm more anxious. And then I had a couple of those incidents happen. Then I finally went to an endocrinologist who did my blood work and was like, you've got all this going on, like a real advanced panel of blood work, and said, hormone therapy is for you. And I said, I can't do hormone therapy because my mom had breast cancer. So I can't do that. And she said, but you can do that because you didn't have breast cancer. And even if you did, there are certain doctors that can have conversations with you depending on where you're at with it. And so she gave me hormone therapy, and I'll be honest, I was very scared and I wasn't sure what to do. And then eventually we really had a long, deep talk. And she said, this isn't about hot flashes. This is about longevity. This is about protecting your bone health. This is like, you feel not confident at work right now because you can't remember what you're talking about next. You're not remembering names and you're feeling uncomfortable. That's what this is about, the long term. And so I went on hormone therapy and I never looked back. Same. It's been a game changer.
All right, we have to go to commercial break. We're going to take your calls when we return. We are back with Emmy award-winning journalist and advocate Tamsen Fadal, who is here to discuss menopause with us. We've got so many questions. Should we get to the phone lines right away?
Let's do it.
Who's first, Jan?
We got Wendy in Massachusetts.
Wendy in Massachusetts. You're on with Tamsen Fadal.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
I just turned 60. I had a hysterectomy 6 years ago. I had my thyroid taken out. I am exhausted. I have brain fog, and the sweats are embarrassing. I have a hard time wearing socks and jeans and long sleeve shirts. The endocrinologist said everything is fine. They tweaked my thyroid medicine a little bit, but I keep having the sweats. So I don't know what it is I can do.
Tamsen, what is it with doctors sort of saying everything is fine? Like they seem to go by like the most baseline numbers of anything.
They do. It always breaks my heart when I hear this story, and I'm so sorry for what you're going through because I really understand that you feel like you're almost playing whack-a-mole with some of these symptoms that you have going on right now. I think we know this. We do know that a lot of doctors were not educated about this in medical school, and that's not their fault. That is a simple, if you ask any of them, they'll say, I got 6 hours of training or I got 6 days of training, but that's kind of about it. And, part of the issue is that's OBGYNs. We're not even talking about other disciplines. So again, not a doctor's fault. Many of them right now are hard at work studying and figuring out and paying attention to the latest research and getting certified by the Menopause Society. But I will say this, I will say that a lot of times, we hear a baseline is normal, but everybody goes through this differently. Everyone's experience is different. What Kelly might be able to do or Jan might be able to do or I might be able to do is going to be very, very different. I would encourage you to try to find a doctor, like a doctor we're talking about, that really understands hormone, that is certified in menopause care, and have them talk to you, because I'm assuming you're in menopause right now, not getting a period anymore.
She's had a hysterectomy, so
you had a
she's
hysterectomy,
thrown
so you
into
went right
menopause.
in. So you went into a medical menopause. And so I don't know what year that was, but if it has been 10 years or more, you've got to find somebody that is certified in that to have that conversation. And if there's not any other symptoms or any other things that you're dealing with, and then hormone therapy could be a great option, if that is approved by a menopause specialist, because right now, it's not okay that you're suffering the way you are.
Tamsen, let me ask you on Wendy's behalf,
how would she find like a certified menopause specialist? Like, what's the best way to go about that?
It's a great question. There's two ways. A lot of times people want to see somebody in person, which I completely understand. The Menopause Society, it's menopause.org. They have an organization where they certify these providers in different cities and different states. You can go to menopause.org, put in the zip code, Wendy, and hopefully your city comes up with somebody that is close or near you. If not, and you're talking about telemedicine and you're interested in something like that, there's a couple of telehealth companies that do a really great job of that. And I can list a few of those so you have access to those as well. MIDI Health is one. Alloy is another one. Those are two of the big ones that really provide care for women in menopause, and they're seeing patients all the time. So I would really encourage you to look at one of those two places, simply because you are having a lot of symptoms and you want to be able to get on top of that, especially being thrust into a medical menopause, essentially.
Is a woman better than a man, or it doesn't matter?
That's a good question.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Just wonder if a woman is more in tune with the hormonal than a man doctor. I mean,
that's a good idea. That's a good question. I left my men doctors and wound up going to a woman, and that wasn't quite so intentional, but it's been interesting to me to note more male doctors are starting to be part of this conversation, which is good news. But I often see a majority of the doctors that have really stepped forward are going through this type of transition themselves, and then all of a sudden they really understand it. So OBs that have gone from delivering babies for a very, very long time and now are maybe in the perimenopause or menopause area, they really understand it firsthand. So I don't want to discourage you from maybe going to a doctor that you've had for a long time. But I would say this: if you're going to a doctor, it is incumbent on us as the patients and the partners to say, before you even walk into an office, are you comfortable talking about menopause? Are you comfortable talking about my options? Can you tell me whether or not you'd be willing to recommend hormone therapy, or at least explain it to me if that's something that comes up? And that way you know if you've got somebody that feels comfortable with this discussion, so you don't waste your time and you can find care right away.
Yeah, and Wendy, be your own best self advocate.
Yes.
Nobody's going to do it for you. You just have to.
Both of my parents had cancer, so I was their advocate. So I'm pretty.
So you're good at it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good girl.
Another question
Doing
is,
it for you.
do men go through menopause?
They go through andropause, right?
Yeah, they go through andropause. And so they have their own hormone fluctuations, but ours kind of, really decline. And then when they decline, they just take a dive. Listen, I think if men really went through menopause, we'd already had like 57 solutions.
There'd be a cure
or
for
maybe
that.
it would have been solved by now. So that's what I think. But, I don't know that all men like that answer, but that's what I think. But, they go through their hormonal changes. We're talking about, we're talking about hormone changes that we have as women all throughout our life, whether we're, young with our period, in our reproductive years, or going through peri into menopause into postmenopause. But I think we have it tougher. I just got to say that.
Wendy, good luck to you. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wendy.
All right. Who do we have now?
We have Mary in California.
Mary in California. Oh my gosh. Mary, hi. You're on with Tamsen.
Hi, I'm glad to be on with both of you. I know you love California. I'm thinking I'll go to Palm Springs with you, Kelly.
Oh,
But-
I would love that anytime. We'll go. You know what? We'll do it we'll do like a hormone tour. Yeah.
You know how you make a hormone, right?
Wow.
Sorry, that's my brother's joke. I gotta give him.
It's a good one.
credit.
Mary,
Yeah.
what's your question for Tamsen?
I was calling you because I have an OBGYN that now that you've all been talking, I've been listening to you so long, I think perhaps he's in touch with his feminine side. He made me a promise because he was a new doctor in town. We're a very small town in the Central Valley of California. And I said, okay, I don't see enough baby pictures like on your board. You know when you go to have a baby and you see all those damn baby pictures?
Yeah, of course.
I said, what the hell? Like, what's going on? You have like 3. That is not inspiring confidence here. And so he said, oh, would that be great if someone said that to you because you're a lawyer? And I said, no, it's just that, like, multiply the pictures. I'll give you some, cut them out of magazines. And so we became fast friends. And I had 4 children, and he delivered each child. And subsequent to my 4th child being born, because it was kind of unexpected, I don't ever want to say that, but I take them all as they come. And he has autism, my youngest. But my oldest, so I have in an 8-year period, I had 4 babies. And I have a law practice. But he told me, he said, here's the deal. I really think you need to have an IUD put in, because my husband had a vasectomy, and he's passed away, which was extremely traumatic when we were 54. And yet, prior to that, I didn't have a lot of faith in that vasectomy, because I accidentally left it in my glove box, the return that I was supposed to take to the hospital, for all day in about 100-degree heat. And, in a car, it's even hotter. So, as a result, I thought, oh, shit, like, this is, I probably shouldn't say that, I'm sorry. I just didn't have a lot of faith in the vasectomy, and my doctor said, well, let's just put an IUD in. And I've had an IUD in every 5 years, a Mirena device, and I am turning 60. And I've never had, since that went in, I've never had a period. And at that point, I was 39 and a half or so.
So
And
how
now
often do you
I
have
am-
it? How often do you have it swapped out, Mary?
Whatever the doctor tells me. I don't know. They send me a notice. So is it several years? I don't know. I've had a lot.
Well, Mary, is your question that whether or not you should have that removed and to see whether or not you're in menopause? Because if you're 60,
I'm about to turn 60.
yeah.
And this whole time, I've not had I've had no periods, and I've had no
So you have no marker.
symptoms. No, I've had no
So
symptoms for menopause.
Well, because
I've
you're
not
still
had
getting
hot
the
flashes,
hormones.
and I've not. Yeah. So is that
Yeah.
hormone therapy?
Yeah,
I
because
don't
Marina
know.
has hormones. It's an IUD with hormones.
Oh, so she is
So
getting
she's
the hormone
getting
therapy.
hormones, yeah.
Is that what doctors do to treat menopause or no?
No, I would, my suggestion, I would assume if we did a lot of screenings of the documentary and had a lot of different panels with doctors, and this came up often. I really would have that conversation if that's the doctor you feel comfortable with. I'm not sure that you do or don't, but if you feel like that's a doctor you're comfortable with, maybe discuss whether or not he is comfortable treating menopause or talking about your options. But where you are right now, you are 9 years past what the average age of menopause would be. And I would assume, or I would think, that they would probably want to remove that, see where you are, get some hormone testing done to see what your levels are at least. And that'll take a little bit of time, because oftentimes if they take somebody off of a birth control pill, they will let that, take a little bit of time in between to see where you are. Especially you also don't want to miss a window to be on hormones either at some point. And that's an average of 10 years, but different doctors feel differently about that. But I would really have that discussion, Mary, with that doctor or somebody you feel comfortable with.
Mary, thanks so much for your call.
Oh, you're so welcome. But I had another question. So my mother, my 2 sisters, they all hit menopause at 51.
Okay.
And so I've been, again, on this Mirena device.
Right.
And I'm like, I've never had hot flashes. I've never had anything. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
You wouldn't know though, because you're getting those hormones. So something that might stop the hot flashes, because those hormones, the hormones that we're talking about, if you're on them, you wouldn't be you'd have a diminished hot flashes. So I would really go see if that doctor can talk to you about that for sure.
Mary, thanks so much for your call. Albert, you have a question for Tamsen.
Tamsen, why is there so much shame around menopause? Like, why are women ashamed to talk about it? I find it fascinating, and it's just such a normal thing.
Yeah, it's such a good question, right? If you're lucky enough, you're going to go through menopause. If you're lucky to live long enough,
Right.
I think it's so wrapped up in ageism and sexism. I also think that for a very long time, we thought when we were researching the film and the books and all that stuff, we realized going back, people would say like, "Oh my gosh, this woman is crazy," because they didn't know what was going on, and so there was a lot of the word hysteria. There was a lot of things really associated with it that gave it a lot of shame and taboo, and people didn't know what was happening. And we outlive our ovaries now for a quite a long time, many decades. So I think that it's a lot of that. It's also media. We didn't do a real service to it for a long time. Youth has always been what everybody talked about and what everybody admired, and women that were in midlife are kind of past their better years, and that's the menopause. And I think we're flipping that narrative on its head in a big way.
It's really so true. The women I know, all of the women in my life that I know that are the most accomplished and have the most going on are over the age of 50. Most of them are postmenopausal, and they have the freedom and the ability to really thrive. They are founding businesses. They are authors. They are teachers. They're podcast hosts. They're journalists, doctors, but they have so much more to offer now. Not now, but they always had a lot to offer. But now that they are no longer in that age where you've got to, you're rearing small children, or you're, a lot of people get very sick when they get their periods. A lot of women suffer from terrible periods, and it can impact their living. They have to call in sick for work or what have you. They're not as productive as they are as the women I know past the age of 50. Don't you think, Jan?
Yeah, I feel like maybe the majority of people on air weren't talking about it also because it does age them, and people feel like there's an expiration date on women in media, right?
Is there? What is mine? Somebody please tell me what mine is.
There is that sense of that. So people are scared to say I've crossed over, right?
Yeah.
Do you agree, Tamsen?
Sure. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I was scared for a while to bring it up because I thought like, is this going to ruin my career talking about it? I had a woman say that to me. But, I agree with what you say about women over the age of 50. At first I thought like, is that just what I'm noticing? But it's really what's going on there. I mean, they're wiser, they're bolder, they've got, a lot to give their teachers in a lot of this. And I think that going back to your question of why there's so much shame in all of it, this was just a conversation that maybe women had in the doctor's office, maybe. And they didn't usually have it with their moms. And real women were certainly not talking about it like this. Like, we're not doctors, real women talking about this. So that didn't happen. And so I think the more that we see that happen, that's what's going to move this needle in a big way.
Yeah, and I just think we have so much to because we're verbose, because we talk about it, our daughters and younger women of the upcoming generations won't have the same stigmas attached. And so I think there will be so much more available to them because of the information that's out there. Should we take a call?
Yes, we have.
We've got Willow in Idaho. Willow, hi, you're on with Tamsen.
Hi, thank you so much. So this last year, I'm 48 years old, so this last year my periods got exceptionally erratic. I was in Europe last year with my kids, and I swear I had a crime scene period that was going through my pants, through my underwear, and I'm with my kids, and it was so embarrassing. And then the next month I had spotting, and then months after that I would get a combination of both. Over the last year, I went to 8 different doctors, and I had told them what was going on, and they said, do you have night sweats or hot flashes? And I'm like, well, no, not really. And so they dismissed me because I had other symptoms, but they said that doesn't fall under the umbrella of perimenopause. So I was wondering if you could help me flesh out the not so common symptoms of it. And are there more than just the 2 big ones that people talk about? Because I have skin issues, creepy, crawly skin, joint stiffness, and those kind of things. So
I mean, yeah. You need to talk to a different doctor because to me, sounds like you checked off every box. Like everyone in this room, with the exception of Jan, is shaking their head yes.
I have some of those.
No,
symptoms.
I know you. I'm just saying you have hot flashes, but your periods are very stable.
Yes.
But everything else that you said sounds very perimenopausal to me. Tamsen, what do you think?
Oh, 100%. And for anybody to say that, this is actually where more of that shame comes in. Like, hey, you don't have enough. You're not suffering quite enough yet for us to do something about it. Heavy period is one of the first signs of perimenopause. Erratic, just exactly what you're talking about. That crime scene. Everybody on this call, well, most people on this call know that and understand that. But all the things you're talking about are a reduction of estrogen. When you're talking about dry skin, when you're talking about joint pain that comes from inflammation, when you're talking, maybe it's sleeping, all those are some of these boxes. I would definitely find a doctor. And I have a symptom tracker that you can kind of check off. There's 34 plus symptoms I wrote about in my book. Some are weird things like burning tongue and itchy ears, dry skin, frozen shoulder. Everybody has different ones, but I would encourage you really to do that because, even with the heavy periods, they could put you on a birth control or a low dose estrogen and progesterone to help with that. So it's not so difficult for you.
Willow, thank you so much for the call.
Thank you so much.
Good luck to you. Frozen shoulder is a real thing, Jen. That's
I know you
before.
had it.
Yes.
By the way, I'm now remembering when you had that.
Frozen shoulder is real.
Kyle's in it now. Kyle has it.
Kyle has it?
Frozen shoulder.
He has frozen shoulder? Do you think he's suffering from menopause, Albert?
No, but he has frozen shoulder. It's painful.
He has like the sympathy pains. The sympathy pains.
Yes, maybe he does. Maybe Kyle feels bad. He feels bad for us.
For you, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. Are we taking a commercial break?
Commercial break.
Okay, we have to take a commercial break. I promise we're trying to get to as many calls as we can. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take more calls with Tamsen when we return. Stick around. Okay, we are back with Tamsen Fadal. You know what, you two? We're not the only ones with a podcast. Tamsen has a podcast called The Tamsen Show. You sit down and you talk about all of this with doctors and specialists in the field. Is that right?
Yeah, I do. I feel like there's so much this conversation, and there's new research all the time, and so it's great to do it and talk to them, and then also talk about what comes on the other side of all this. Because we've got some really incredible women out there doing great things.
It's good to know. It's good for our listeners because we're never going to get to all of the callers today, but it's good to know that the Tamsen Show is available for you to download wherever you get your podcast. How did I do, Jan?
You did great. You did great. I do have a question though. I want to know about how this affects your sex drive because I've been just blaming the fact that I'm probably mad at my husband, but maybe it's a symptom. You tell me.
Maybe it's both. Low libido is one of the big symptoms of menopause. And I definitely went through it. I got remarried at the age of 50. And this poor guy, I dated him in perimenopause and I was still getting erratic periods. And so he was patient with that. And then I turned 49 and I'm like, my libido's, And then I get married and we went to Hawaii on our honeymoon and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to have sex. I had no interest, I wasn't dealing with hormones. I didn't really know what was going on completely. And this poor guy, I think he thought I bait and switched him hey, look at me. Oh, don't come near me now. But it's a real thing. And when I don't have, there are a lot of different things that can help your libido, testosterone being one of them, estrogen and progesterone being another, and that definitely does make a difference for me.
They really work as for me, it's a trifecta. It's a trifecta, but for me, the one that really seals the deal is I do a tea shot. I know a lot of women do a cream or a gel. I do a shot, and it's been life-changing.
And you guys notice the difference when it's weaning off?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a battery winding down.
Yeah, it's like you're crawling all over them one time, and then when they come near you again later, when you don't have that, you're don't come. You're
you're
don't rub my
breathing.
back.
Your breathing sickens me.
Are you chewing again your food?
Must you
Yeah.
breathe?
And what do you think is important for like men to know, right? Because that's like I'm trying to explain all of this to my husband.
Well, I love that, first of all. I think men need to know what we're going through. I think for way too long, we whispered about it, right? Or we didn't talk about it at all. And that's how we got here. And our moms didn't talk about it. And that's how we got here. And then we kind of termed it as like a woman's problem or the change. We didn't even want to call it menopause.
Change.
You're going through she's going through the change. And so, I think it's really important for men to understand what's going on so they don't feel like, is it something that they did all the time, even though sometimes it might be. How you're feeling, why you might be prone to irritability or rage, because all of those things happen, fatigue. And then really understanding that, I always say it's like the who, what, where, when of menopause. They don't need all the details, but they kind of need to understand this is what's going to go on and understand the fears that come out of society as a result of this time in life. And I think we probably all went through them a little bit, saying like, are my best years behind me if I'm in menopause? And, the answer is hell no.
No.
And
No, it's like you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I do it all those years before menopause?
Yeah.
It's wild. Like that's the brain flip that you will have, Jan.
Okay.
I
I'm ready
promise
for
you.
it.
Should we take a call?
Yeah, we've got Kelly in Pittsburgh.
Hey, Kelly, you're on with Tamsen.
Hi, thank you so much. And I'll be the first person in line for the hormone tour. Please do that.
I'm going to do it. You know what, Tamsen? You and I should do like a woman, like just, how they have Comic-Con? We'll do Menopause Con.
I love
Hormone Con. Let's do it.
Good idea, by the way.
By the way, let's do it.
I am
say
ready.
we do it.
I am ready.
What's your question,
you
Kelly?
You mentioned something about that 10-year window, and I was just wondering when that applies. But then, back in 2003, I went through all the things everyone was saying. My fatigue, I was kind of like crawling on the floor. I went to this allergist in Queens, and he said to me, because I went to specialist after specialist after specialist, I was labeled lazy, I was labeled, crazy, everything. Chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, which I think I have. But
Sure.
He said to me when I was 35, he said, this is hormonal, and you're not going to know it until you're in your 50s because it's not going to show up in your lab work where someone will take you seriously.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, first, I'm so sorry. And second, unfortunately, that is an answer so many women get. So I don't know if you said when you went into this or where you are in terms of age. The Menopause Society has guidelines, right, for women that are within 10 years of menopause or under the age of 60. Now there has been some adjustment that some doctors will talk to you, so it's on a per person basis. If you find a provider, and I really encourage you to look for that, and somebody that is not saying that it's going to show up in your 50s, because quite frankly, perimenopause shows up in your 40s most of the time, and it can start even earlier than that with hormonal changes. So I would really encourage you to do that, because and even in my book, I had to do this whole section, which I hated to have to do, but I had to give a script of like what to do if your doctor says no to hormone therapy, because it's such a common thing and we kept hearing about it over and over again. So I would say, if you could talk to somebody about that, if you don't have any contraindications, reasons that you would not be able to do that, and if you haven't been in menopause for like 15, 20 years, I don't know if you said your age, but I would really encourage you to find a different doctor that could talk to you about that, specifically you.
And my main concern is for like the younger generation, like I see kind of like a genetic kind of thing within the women in our family. And so how early can someone start looking into that if you start to, even just have female problems?
I am shocked there's not a baseline for this, quite frankly, and it's something that I really try to push it for and talk about. We have a baseline for mammograms. We have a baseline for colonoscopies. We don't have a baseline to say just a conversation. But I would say there's never too early of a time to be understanding what's going on. Because even if it's not hormone therapy, because not everyone's a candidate for hormone therapy, you just might not be. There are other things that you can do with lifestyle changes when it comes to making sure you're protecting your bones by lifting weights, making sure that you're eating where you're getting enough protein, making sure sleep is a real priority, and stress management. So I would say no woman is ever too young to be having the conversations of how to protect yourself in terms of health span. But especially if you're dealing with that within the family, I would say early 30s, I would be having those conversations.
Agreed, Kelly. Make sure you get your hormones checked. I mean, definitely get a hormone panel. You have to do it. I stand by everything Tamsen says. Thank you so much for your call, and good luck to you. You know what? I think we need to have MenoCon. I really do.
I love MenoCon. I love it.
MenoCon.
I think it needs to be a celebration for menopause.
100%.
You know, I did a party last year, but I want to have I agree with you. Like, there's so many questions. There's so many.
Yeah, we can we're going to get into this off camera.
I love it.
I want to remind everyone to pick up your book, How to Menopause. Check out the Tamsen Show. It's a great podcast. It's available everywhere you get your podcasts. And the M Factor and Before the Pause, where can people watch that?
Yeah, the M Factor is on mfactorfilm.com, and October 18th, I'm actually going to be screening it free virtually. And then Before the Pause, which is the perimenopause doc, we are in the middle of edit, and it's going to be premiering in January.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tamsen. Tamsen Fadal, everybody, and we'll talk off camera next week. Bye-bye.
Let's Talk Off Camera with Kelly Ripa is a production of Melojo Productions. From Melojo, our team is Kelly Ripa, Mark Consuelos, Albert Bianchini, Jan Chalet, Seth Gronquist, Ross Therian, Devin Schneider, Michael Halpern, Julia Desch, and Team Radio Andy, Lisa Mantaneo, Scott Marlowe, Jake Getz.